Okay, great. I am going to get started now and people can just keep trickling in. Let's see. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, amazing. Well, yeah, you guys are all here for, I'm assuming, the graduate clinical psychology program. And I'm here to kind of just share with you some general info. Um, this is, let's see. Okay, so this is our agenda for today. We'll be going through the general admissions requirements, financial aid, student support, and then we'll have some questions and breakout. Or actually, I don't know if we're going to do breakout rooms. I think because this is clinical, we're just going to have all the questions here. So first off, going through just the admissions requirements. A lot of you guys, if you've already looked through the website or had a conversation with me, most likely have reviewed what most of these requirements or already gotten started on the application process. I know some of you are also prospective, looking forward to spring 2025, summer 2025 even, and just getting ahead and looking towards what you need to do to complete the application. So the first step is to complete your online application. And so that's just like a questionnaire form. And then once you submit that, you'll also have to pay an application fee, which we're actually waiving for you just for attending. So kudos to you for attending. We'll have that waived for you once you submit your application. Then we also do require official transcripts from your bachelor's degree, as well as any transfer work that you did. Say if you went to a junior college in order to complete your bachelor's, then we would also need those transcripts as well. We also require 3 letters of recommendation, and those can be academic, personal, or professional recommenders. And we have a personal statement that you would need to complete, as well as a resume. And all of those items that you would send, you could send to our gradadmissions@vanguard.edu email address. For transcripts, you can also directly mail them to our address. And if you have questions on any of those things, you can always direct message me afterwards, and I'll put my email in the chat later as well. So a little bit more info about prerequisites, because I know a lot of people have questions about these usually. So the prerequisite is either that you've had your bachelor's in psychology or that you've completed these 4 courses, which are Intro to Stats, an abnormal psych course, developmental psychology, and a counseling theories course. And there are some alternatives there as well. So you need to complete these prerequisites with a B- or above. And if you don't have the prerequisites yet, that's not an issue at all. We have a lot of students that are completing those even right now for fall. So you can do those at a local community college. You can also complete those on study.com, which is just like an online course site where you can take classes for credit. It's asynchronous. You could do them at your own pace. So it is pretty simple and straightforward. And if you have questions on even what courses would apply towards your prerequisites, say if you've taken courses in the past and you think maybe I took an Intro to Stats course or something, you can always send those unofficial transcripts to me and we can assess those and see if they would count. So there is some flexibility there, and we're willing to work with you to make sure that you can get these prerequisites done. And then just kind of general overview of financial aid. Cost of the program obviously is something that we are considering for you, knowing that, grad school is expensive and we want to provide you as much support as we can to get you through that. So the cost of the program is going to be, it's $840 per unit currently. And so it'll be about $51,000 to $55,000, depending on if you do 61 units or if you do 66 units. And you do have access to financial aid as a grad student. You would be eligible to apply for FAFSA, and all of the grad students are able to get about $20,500 in loans per academic year. And we do also have academic scholarships available for students. So if you have a 3.5 GPA or above in your cumulative undergrad GPA, you can get a 10 to 15% discount depending on where your GPA falls above that 3.5. We also do have some other outside scholarship opportunities, or we recommend you look into these outside scholarship opportunities, just looking at scholarships.com, fastweb.net. If you have an employer that would be willing to help fund your education, looking into that, as well as any local affiliations or churches, you can typically ask and see if they're willing or able to provide financial support for your education. And then I'm actually going to hand it off to my colleague Kais, another admissions counselor, to kind of go through some other student support that you have here.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited that you guys are here tonight. And I know that, we pray that this blesses you all and that we properly inform you guys. So yeah, I will be sharing the resources that we offer here at Vanguard. And first one that we offer is our student support. We do offer a living well counseling, a living well service where you can have access to food and resources. We have an on-campus pantry that provides food for our students, and yeah, so we have that. We also have access to counseling services for our students who may be in need and want to feel supported and seen. And secondly, we do have a writing center where we are able to have students get help on their written works. You basically would write an essay and say, hey, you know what? I want to see if there's any improvement or if they can help me on this. I know that there's a lot of students that come into programs that are like, I'm not so good at writing, or I having difficulty on this, and you want to have eyes on it. You can definitely use this resource center and get your writing checked. We also have a disability service where if you have any disability that impairs you or detracts from you being able to move forward with your learning capabilities, we are able to help you and support you, whether it be mental health, physical, or any hindrances. We want to make sure that we create a space where you are seen and heard. Fourth, we do have a VRC service. We have a VRC service dedicated towards our veterans. If you are in the service or have served, we just want to say thank you, and we welcome and want to make sure that our veterans maximize on their benefits and that they're plugged into the community. So we definitely have a community that can support and work with you, and that's financially or just having a mentor or someone to speak to on the veteran side of things.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kais. So yeah, you do have a lot of other outside support available to you outside of just, academically. And moving forward here, we also, you do have the support, not just of your admissions team, but also of your academic coordinator and program staff once you're in the program, once you're starting to register for your classes. And that kind of nicely segues into our next section, which is a Q&A with our clinical program staff that are available here tonight. So we have Lisa Hahn, who is our assistant director of the program, as well as Delilah Peria, who's here as well, who is our program coordinator. And so, yeah, I just want to welcome both of them, and Lisa or Delilah, if you would like to just give a quick overview of the program and what students can expect coming into the program, I'll hand it off to you.
Great. We're excited you guys are here. We do a lot of the different stuff of helping you get into the program, but also then once you're in the program, helping with registration and practicum and all those different kinds of things. So we can definitely help talk about those things and answer questions. Quick overview of our program is we're a 61 to 66 unit master's in clinical psychology, and we meet the licensure requirements for marriage and family therapy in the state of California. And then if you do the 66 units, you also can qualify for the licensure as a professional clinical counselor in the state of California. So you can choose one of them or both of them if you would like. And you have options for like the speed that you go through the program and whether you want to do it in an on-campus format or online format. Lots of options, and we're happy to talk through any of the specifics and answer questions. Delilah, do you have anything to add?
Hi everyone, my name is Delilah. I work alongside Lisa and Dr. Brenda Gazelle. And again, our jobs are just to make your transition into grad school as easy as possible, as well as provide you support while you are in the program. So you will get to know us fairly well. And so then this info meeting is just really for you guys to ask us any questions you may have, whether it's about the field or about the admissions process. We have our admissions counselors here and our admissions team that are able to answer that. But yeah, this is your time. So no need to feel shy. There's no such thing as a dumb question or a silly question. We understand that pretty much all of you have zero experience in the therapy field because it's not a field that you can get experience in until you have a master's degree. So please feel free to ask all the questions, whether it's about curriculum or the field. We're here to navigate that and walk you through it. So you can raise your hand via Zoom, or you can type it in the chat, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Jenny, I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I have a question about the classes. Is everything for the classes that's online, is the classes going to be taken live, or are we meeting via Zoom like this as well?
Yes, so there is, even though our program is online, there is a live component that happens on a weekly basis. So all of your lectures and all of your assignments are going to be done on your own. You'll have access to the lectures, you have access to assignments, vignettes, all of those things. But because this is a clinical program, we do have all of our online students meet once a week synchronously with your professor, as well as all of your other classmates for 2 hours for every class that you're in. So 2-hour segment. And so just as you would need to prepare to go to an in-person class, that is the expectation that we have, that you are prepared and ready to go online.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then for the practicum, is there a certain amount of hours we will have to meet before being able to graduate?
Yes. So if you are wanting to apply for, well, if you're wanting to graduate and pursue the MFT license, then you will need 225 hours. Those hours can be compiled with all of the hours for the most part are going to be client hours, but 75 of those can be what we call client center advocacy in the field.
Okay.
You'll learn more about that later. But
Okay.
just if you're wanting to get a good understanding, it's 225. And then if you're wanting to pursue the PCC, you're
Mhm.
looking at 280 hours, but those are all client face-to-face hours. So we
Okay.
always tell students to set aside anywhere, once you start practicum, you're looking at setting aside anywhere from 10 to 15 hours a week
Okay.
to be able to meet that requirement.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Lauren?
So it's only 225 hours to graduate, but then 3,000 total to get licensed, right?
Yes, so if you're doing the MFT track, those 225 hours roll over and count towards your 3,000. But if you are doing the PCC track, you start at 0 once you graduate. So you have to do 3,000 from 0.
And then what, in your opinion, is like the main difference between PCC and LMFT?
I would say there's no difference. So here's kind of how I explain it. Historically, in the state of California, in order for you to provide mental health counseling or therapy, clinical therapy, you needed to do that under the licensing board of marriage and family therapists. Outside of the state of California, you could do that under the licensing board of marriage and family therapists or licensed professional clinical counselor. As of recent years, that licensure has made its way over to California. So now in California, you could provide therapy under either of those two things. In terms of what the difference is, there's one class different, whereas like MFTs don't have to take career counseling, PCCs do. Everything else is the same, with the exception of maybe like a little bit of a unit change, which again, we'll talk about, but for the most part, you're learning the same stuff. And then once you graduate, right, a marriage and family therapist can see couples, kids, individuals, work for nonprofits, for-profits, government agencies, and a PCC can do the exact same thing. No difference. So PCCs can see couples, marriages, individuals, kids, all of the same things. I think what is appealing about doing both is that it just gives you options for not that much more work. So it's just an extra class that you'd have to do PCC. And then once you graduate, you are able to apply for both licensures and kind of gain hours simultaneously. So you can kind of double dip a little bit. So sometimes as students are going along, getting their 3,000 hours, one track will have them closer to licensure. So then they'll just drop the other one. Another scenario is if you are wanting to move out of the state of California, now you have two tracks that you can present to that state, and that state could have more leniency towards one track than the other. That's not necessarily guaranteed, but it just gives you more options for not much more work.
Because for the licensure, it's 3,000 total for the LPCC and the
And-
LMFT if you want to do both, not 3,000, 3,000, 6,000 total.
Right. But it kind of, you're not going to go hour to hour like right on match, because MFT has certain buckets that you need to fill. Like you need a bucket on kids, and you need a bucket on family, you need a bucket on supervision. PCC has their own buckets, and so eventually one of the tracks is going to be winning the race, per se, to use that analogy. So but you can definitely like double dip. So if both tracks have a bucket of individuals, that 1 hour that you get can meet both of those track requirements.
Okay. And then they have their own separate tests for licensure.
Yes.
Are they pretty similar or?
They're different. You would have to study for, like, if you're wanting to do the MFT, you have a specific study materials that you would have to like do. A lot of our, pretty much all of our students, there's a variety of different like study prep exam courses that they take for MFT. Those are different than for PCC. So if you're wanting to do both, then you're going to have to prepare yourself for 2 different tests.
Okay. And then, sorry, I'm like hogging all the time. People think,
No, these are all great questions that I'm sure other students have as well.
do you think the tests are, in your opinion, significantly different, or it covers a lot of the same material since there's only one class difference?
I don't know that I feel confident answering that question, because I did the MFT route, but I do have a lot of colleagues that have done the PCC route, and there is significant differences.
Okay.
Even in looking at so I never did the PCC test, but I did look at the study material of one of my colleagues who did the PCC, and there are significant differences.
Okay, I think my last question is there the option to, like right now, I would like to enroll in the online. Is there an option to transition to in-person, like at a certain time during the program, or like could I transition after like a year, something like that?
There definitely is. We do take it on a case-by-case scenario, and so you would have to petition to transfer tracks simply because we want to protect like the community and the integrity of like our online students as well as our on-campus students. So we keep the tracks separate. Like everyone who's doing online has their online community. We keep them together so that they don't feel like they're randomly taking classes with strangers on campus and vice versa. But yes, it has happened both ways, where we have a student who's online and then they move right down the street and they're like, can I do the on campus? And so then we'll do the transition over. Or we have a student who has to move out of Orange County and they're really wanting to continue in the program. And so we have that opportunity to be able to switch them onto the online track and have them complete with us.
Okay, cool. Those are my only questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Oh, Jennifer, I see you raised your hand. Go for it. Feel free to unmute yourself, Jennifer. No? Yeah, Jennifer?
Sorry, is my name listed as Jennifer?
It is. Hi, Jen.
That is so hilarious. My mom's name is Jennifer. I'm actually Brooke.
Hi,
So
Brooke.
sorry.
Brooke
I
was
was,
like, oh, I guess they just ignored my hand.
I assumed there was another Jennifer.
Hi,
I'm so sorry.
Brooke.
Hi, nice to meet you. I just have 2 quick questions. The first one, are most of the classes, if not all of them, are they a 7-week format or a full term format?
If you are doing the online program, the majority of the courses are 8 weeks. Some are 16 weeks long. And then if you're doing the on-campus, those are 16-week long courses.
Okay, cool. And then secondly, I know for a lot of programs, practicum is done about over the course of a year in like the second half of your program. I was looking at the 4-year track. So would that then be spaced out over 2 years, or would that still just be the last year?
Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, or I don't know if you want to answer this one.
Sure, I'll go for it. So at a 4-year track, you got options. So normally you have to do practicum in our program for at least about a year and a half. So 3 fall and spring semesters. And on the 4-year track, then you have the option of doing that for your last year and a half, basically, or starting a year earlier than that and doing it for 2.5 years. If you start early, you can do it for the whole 2.5 years, or you could take some time off in the middle as well. So there's some options on that and how that fits with like your situation and what sites you're at and how busy you are and things.
Which is also nice because you have more time to gain more hours. And so if you're going to go for the MFT afterwards, you have that many hours less towards your 3,000. Which would expedite
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it would expedite getting your license.
Perfect. Well, those are my 2 questions. So thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else? Samira and then Natalie.
Hello. So my question is more like an admissions process question. I graduated with my undergrad several years ago, back in 2017. Therefore, I'm having a little bit of trouble reaching a few of my professors for a recommendation letter. So I wanted to know if there was an alternative. I already have two from my employment. So yeah, that was my question, if there was an alternative to that requirement.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda, I don't know if you want to jump in, or I can definitely jump in as well.
Yeah, I can just jump in. But basically for the letters of rec, so even if you're not able to get that letter from like an academic reference, we do understand that sometimes it's just been a long time, and if those professors don't, you're not even in contact with them anymore, or like haven't been in contact for like, many years, we do have flexibility in that area. And so you can, like, if you wanted to reach out to like another professional reference or
Okay.
another personal reference, that's totally fine. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Delilah, feel free to jump in if you
Yeah,
have anything else to add.
the reason why we ask for similar to what Amanda said, we understand that sometimes it's not possible to get a reference from a professor. The reason why we do ask for like a professor, an employer, and then another is just because we want to get an understanding of you in different areas. So like in a professional setting, in an academic setting. So if you have like a supervisor that is able to speak towards your academic ability, so your ability to maybe take on a project and create something with like your team about it. So just if they can speak towards like your academic ability, that would be great. Doesn't necessarily have to be from a professor. We are flexible. We're just wanting to get to know you a little bit better in different areas of your life.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Natalie, you had a question as well?
I had two questions, but to stay on like admission process, related, I had a question regarding like the three letters, personal statement and resume. For transcripts, you mentioned like mailing them, but for those other three, would that be all submitted through the Vanguard online application? Or would those be something you email over to you guys?
Yeah, so for like the personal statement, resume, and like the letters of recommendation, you could also send those to the grad admissions at Vanguard email. And I'll just put it here just in the chat, just so that everyone has it. But for your letters of recommendation, specifically those, what you would have your recommenders send their letters directly to our grad admissions email, and then we would upload that for you.
Okay, so they send it straight to the grad admissions. Um,
Correct. Yeah.
Also, I've been interested in a spring start for 2025, but you had mentioned a summer 2025 start. I didn't know that. Is there
Yeah.
a summer option available?
No, actually summer is not available. So I like saw that somebody had put an interest in summer 2025. That's what was in my head. But no, we actually only have a fall and a spring start. So yeah, it's either start spring 2025 or fall 2025. That's available too.
Okay. And just for clarification, when are the deadlines for those fall or spring starts?
Yeah, so for the spring, our priority deadline is October 1st, and then the standard deadline is November 1st. And then if you wanted to apply for the fall, that would be, so we actually have three different deadlines. It's early action is January 15th. The priority is March 1st, and then standard deadline is July 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I will throw in a promotion for all of the deadlines. The earlier you submit your application, the better it is for you. So we, for your first semester, we do registration for your classes in order of when you completed your application. So the first person to complete their application gets the first choice of which classes, like time-wise to get. So we always guarantee you get classes. That's not the problem or the concern. It's more of like if you have preferences on times, then the sooner you do it, the more opportunity you have to get your preferences. And if you, especially if you want the evening only track, if that's something you're interested in, then the earlier the better, because that also fills up. So we can always put you on a wait list and advise you to have as many evening classes as possible. But in order to guarantee it, the earlier the better. So it's beneficial to submit it early.
Leanne, you have a question?
Hi, yes, I have a few questions actually. Can you hear me okay?
We
Yeah.
can.
Okay, good. So my first question is, do you guys offer any programs that help students get placed for their post-practicum pre-licensure hours?
Not necessarily. We have, so while you're in the program, we do have like a practicum fair where a lot of the partners that we work with that take our students will come and meet our students, and you get to kind of go table to table, talk to each of the practicum sites, give them your resume. And then because we have a pretty good reputation in the community, we have like a really nice turnout for those practicum sites, and oftentimes our students will sometimes those practicum sites will offer our students placement, but to say like, oh, do we have a program? Not really. And that's simply because you could be set on working with kids and you're like, I love working with kids, and then you go and you work with kids and you're like, this is not what I thought it was. So we always encourage students to, like, after you graduate, to try something different from what they did as an undergrad. But sometimes they do stay with their practicum sites and then they get hired on, and other times they decide to go somewhere else to get additional experience, such as a hospital, or we had someone who is working like for like prison, community counseling centers, private practices, schools, I mean, you name it.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the practicum, the externship is, there's help offered with that. That's because it's part of the curriculum. Do you guys have programs within the externships?
So the way do you mean the practicum, the internship while you're in the
Yes.
program?
Yes, exactly.
So what we always tell students is, yes, it's a requirement for you to graduate, but we can't guarantee that we're going to place you at a site, because that is to the discretion of the practicum site. So we will do everything we can to make sure that you are prepared. We have resume workshops, we have mock interviews, we have a clinical director whose role is to work with our students to make sure that they are getting placed at a practicum site. We have the practicum fair as well, but it's up to the student to interview, reach out to the site, and then up to the site's discretion to interview our student or not, because every student is going to be a different fit for either the site or the population. So it's up to the student to actually get the site, but we do everything we can to make sure that we set you up for success. And so far we haven't had any issues.
Okay. And then my next question is, how many people roughly out of the professor roster are practicing therapists currently?
All of them.
All of them,
Okay,
including me,
that's a good amount. Okay,
including your coordinator.
that's great. Okay, and then my last question is, I know that you guys are a Christian school, and so I'm just wondering how spirituality and Christian ideals are implemented within the curriculum.
Yeah, so the way I present it to students is we are a Christian institution and our faculty and staff are Christian, but our students are come from a diverse background. So you will be in classes with students that are Christian, as well as students that are atheist, Muslim, a variety of different things. Our program prepares you for licensure within the state of California. And so we go under those guidelines. This is not biblical counseling. This is not Christian counseling. This is therapy as designed or defined by the state of California. However, because we are a Christian institution, we do have an awareness of the importance of spirituality. And so we train our students to be aware of that within your client, whether they have the same values of you, as well as if they have different values. So to honor the importance that spirituality takes place in the therapeutic room and environment, regardless of whether that is your own spirituality. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense. And that is all of my questions. Thank you so much.
No problem. Great questions. You guys have some wonderful questions.
I also wanted to point out that Patricia did put a question in the chat. And she asked, would taking online courses lead to graduating faster since it's 8-week courses rather than 16-week courses?
No, it would not, because it's about the time frame. So like in on campus, the reason why there's 16-week courses is because you're doing them all at the same time, whether online versus online, where you are doing maybe one 16-week course all the way through, but then your other two, or depending on the track you're doing them one at a time. So you're not doing them all at once. Think of you're doing this many classes per semester, regardless of whether it's the online format or the on-campus format. Natalie, well, there's someone who has a question in the chat. In your opinion, what makes this program stand out from other MFT programs? Based on, I mean, as someone who teaches in the classrooms, as well as someone who has gone through the program and some of the feedback that has been given by our students, I think the biggest difference from our program to others is how much we focus on transference and countertransference, and our clinical training. So we we place a heavy value on clinical training. In every practicum site that you will be, our students are required to record themselves in therapy and record themselves and their clients. So the reason why we do that, and a lot of programs don't do that, is because there's only so much that you can tell us that is going on in the therapy room. We want to jump into the therapy room with you. And the way we do that is by watching your recordings. And so you will have classes where you will be in small groups, and you will be showing your recordings to the professor as well as to other students, and we get to learn from each other, and we get to show see each other's blind spots, maybe something that you're not seeing, that because you're not seeing it, you wouldn't bring it up as an issue. Maybe you don't know what a manic client looks like, and then I can see your video, and within 15 seconds I can tell you this person is manic. Have we looked at their history? Have they been hospitalized before? So we really take we prioritize clinical training. We also prioritize this idea of like being able to be aware of your transference. So kind of understanding, making sure that the space that we are creating for our clients is solely for them and not for us, and not getting pulled into maybe toxic dynamics that feel familiar to the client, so that we're not falling into like recreating areas of trauma for them. I know that's a little bit more like psychobabble. I'm trying to like bring it down, but I hope that makes sense of like, we're really, I think it's the training. I think it's the clinical training, and our students see it and our partners see it. And I think that's why we have such a great community. Such a great reputation within the community, because of how far along in the clinical training our trainees are when they get to practicum. And so they are just feel more prepared, they feel more confident, because they know that they're being watched and supervised by a professor as well, who's helping them and fine-tuning their clinical skills. And so that really creates a lot of confidence in our students to go out there and to really provide good therapy. Lisa, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think too, we also really focus on community in a way, like building community within our student body. So on campus, it's a little bit more easy because everybody is physically here. So we do different things to kind of little events to foster community, mostly based around food. So, little, like we do a self-care week where we have little things that you can do to relax and to chat with others. There's anything from like puzzles to I remember little games that people play together while they're on break. And we also have food. And then the way our online track is designed with classes meeting once a week, it really does foster a sense of community within your class because you get a lot of time to discuss different things and talk through what you're learning and how that applies and what you're struggling with and things like that. So we really do value community and try to find ways to foster it within our community and our faculty. Like if you come to campus, a lot of online students can come to campus if you're local as well, and that's totally great. And if you come, when faculty are here, their doors are open, they're happy to talk with you, things like that.
And then I would also add this simply because we just finished advising a lot of our new students that are coming in. So different from like Cal State's and UC schools, I think one of the things that sets us apart is that you do not do this alone. So you have to meet with me or Lisa every semester to go over your classes, to make sure you're passing your classes. We check in with you. We check in on your mental health. We check in on like, how is the workload happening for you? We advise you on like, okay, this is what's next. These are the classes that you're going to take. Let's put them all in your shopping cart together. Great. All you have to do is go online when registration opens and click that register button. So we understand what a big commitment this is and what a big sacrifice this is. You're sacrificing not just time, not just financially, but like also time with your family, time with your friends. And so while you are here, we want this to be the best experience possible, which is why we're so big on community and we're so big on like, you're not doing this alone. You have us to walk alongside you. And once you walk across that stage, you have us as colleagues. Any other questions? Jennifer's iPhone, Brooke. Right, Brooke?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a follow-up question for you, touching on earlier about an awareness of the spiritual being within like ourselves and our clients. Does anything like prayer or meditation get taught as like a method within therapy?
How do I answer? Yes and no. So I think for us to be ethical therapists, we there is a power differential, and you'll learn more about this in your classes, but there is a power differential between me and a client. And so I have to constantly be aware that anything I say could positively and negatively impact my client. And so just because prayer and meditation works for me doesn't necessarily mean that that actually would be helpful for my client, especially if I have a client with a lot of religious trauma. And so the way in which we approach therapy is what is helpful for the client, what is helping the client, what are the ways in which the client feels like coping is great, right? So if my client tells me when I'm having anxious feelings to meditate and to pray is really helpful, okay, great. So how do we continue to foster time in your life where you're able to use this coping skill towards your towards yourself, right? If my client tells me that journaling is something that is really helpful with them in terms of symptom reduction, okay, so then how do we create a you know, space in your life to be able to journal and to do these things that are really going to help you feel better. So there isn't like, oh yeah, say this prayer and then you're going to feel better. It's more about the client and what the client needs and what the client actually finds helpful, which sometimes will be very different than what I find helpful in my own walk and my own spirituality. Once applied, how long does it take to hear back from admissions? At this point, very quickly, because we are getting close to starting classes. So I would say within once your application is complete, within that week, Lisa and myself and Amanda will review it, and you'll hear back from Lisa and me, and we'll set up an interview with you, with one of our faculty members or our director. Once you interview, then within a week or two, you would have a response from us, just because of the time frame of we start classes in August. So it's coming up. So the trigger is to, as soon as your application is completed, then things move on fairly quickly. Any other questions? Lauren?
I know we talked about it. I had just a last question about that practicum fair that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is it at a certain time in the year? Is it like spring?
Every fall. It's
Every
every fall, and practicum always starts in the January, in spring. So a January calendar year, that's when practicum sites begin to hire on. They hire on in January. So we do our fair every single fall. So it's good to, even though you're not going to start practicum like January 2025, it's good to still go to the fair and kind of get an understanding of like, what are the options that you have for practicum. And we have a site here on campus. We have a counseling center that we partner with that only takes our trainees. So there are more than enough options. It just really depends on what the student is wanting to do, what their schedule is, as well as what population they're wanting to work with, and what sites therapeutic approach they feel more comfortable with.
And then it generally starts in the middle of the track, right? Like, so if I'm gonna do a 3-year track, it'd be around the middle of it.
Yeah, the 3-year track is our full-time track. And then that one starts halfway through the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we could do, if anyone has like any last burning questions that they want to ask.
Hi.
Alondra,
Yes,
I would
Alondra.
unmute yourself. Go for it, Alondra.
Hi. My question is, if for whatever reason we're not accepted into the program, how long after can we apply right away for the next session? Or how does that work? Would you rely to us why we weren't accepted and how we can change those factors so that we are accepted into the program?
Lisa, do you want to jump in on that?
Sure. If it's a denial, then we normally can't discuss why you were denied, unfortunately. So you can reapply after a certain amount of time. I'm not remembering that exactly right now. But if it's something like you didn't have your prereqs ready, or your degree didn't quite post in time or something like that, then we could easily like forward your application to a future semester. So that wouldn't be a full denial. That would just be a not quite complete
Not yet.
situation. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to start wrapping this up just since we're kind of getting close to time, but just wanted to thank you guys again all so much for showing up and it's been really great to even just see some of your faces of people I've like talked with before. And yeah, I also just want to give a quick I guess reminder that for those that are applying for fall of 2024, if you are finishing up your application, it will be due, or the deadline is on July 1st. So if you can try to get all those materials in to me by that time, that'd be great. And if you have any other direct questions that you wanted to ask, either admissions wise or follow-up questions for Lisa and Delilah, feel free to direct those questions to my email. You can reach me at this email that I'm sending in the chat here. Most of you, I think, should already have it, but you can always follow up there, and I'd be happy to answer that or just relay those questions to Lisa and Delilah. So thank you guys so much for spending some time with us tonight. We're very excited to have you go through the admissions process with us. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you, guys.